as much as I was a full-blown advocate of LGBT rights, I'm not sure we had quite as many initials. Someone said the other day, oh, I remember when it was just G. Well, I'm old. I remember when it was just F. So we made a lot of progress. But I will tell you that my effectiveness on LGBT issues increased when I was out. Legislating is a personal business. It is one thing for people to be dismissive of an issue in the abstract. It's another to tell a friend and a colleague with whom you work that no, you don't value him or people like him highly enough. So I am very proud to be here for Scott. I'm also here to thank you for what you're doing for Hillary Clinton, which is very important. Let me make a suggestion. I know Donald Trump is an irresistible target. I got to say, watching him, I was flying out here last night, so I watched the debate on the rerun on CNN. When he blurted out such a nasty woman, I got to say, being called nasty by Donald Trump is like being called silly by the Three Stooges. And I say that respectfully because the oldest of the Three Stooges, who basically retired, Shemp, who's married to a cousin of my father's, Sam Horowitz was his name, became Shemp. But ignore Trump. People who are by now still going to vote for him, forget them. You are not going to change them. I think Hillary overstated a little bit when she said they're irredeemable. Some of them are decent people who have been frustrated by the economic situation that's hit them. And I believe once Hillary is president, and especially if we have a Democratic Senate, we will begin to show them what government can do when it's run constructively. And we will begin to wean them from their anger. But between now and November, you're not going to do it. There are two issues I would ask you to look at. First of all, you may run into some people who understand that Trump is a terrible candidate, but they're going to tell you they have these ethical issues with Hillary. There's a problem with Hillary. I spent the 90s, specifically from 95 to 2000, as a member of Congress, when the Republicans under Newt Gingrich took over. And they spent all of those years trying to find something bad about Hillary Clinton. The Banking Committee investigated Whitewater. The Government Affairs Committee investigated Vince Foster. Kenneth Starr investigated both of those, plus the Travel Office, the FBI files. Then the House Judiciary Committee looked into it. And out of all that investigation, yes, they showed that Bill Clinton had lied about having oral sex with Monica Lewinsky. On every other issue, Whitewater, Vince Foster, the FBI files, the Travel Office, anything else you can think about, Hillary Clinton was completely exonerated. In fact, when I asked Kenneth Starr after the election, because I was mad that he had sent bad news in about Bill before the congressional election and held off the good news for us that there was nothing that he had on Hillary afterwards. And I said to him, now you go look this up in the November 1998 hearings of the House Judiciary Committee, and I asked Kenneth Starr, on what date, I want the date on which you exonerated Hillary Clinton from these charges on, I think it was the FBI files. And he started to hesitate, and I started to jump. He said, no, you don't understand. And this is the direct quote. I cannot give you a date on which we exonerated her because there was never anything to implicate her in the first place. So when they start talking about all these things, make them say what they're talking about. Yes, she should not have used the email server. She should have dealt with it better. No harm has come, no negative to the United States has come from that. There is nothing else negative. So it is true, there are a lot of charges. But 8 times 0 is 0, it's not 6. Force people to be specific and tell them case by case by case. Benghazi, and as I said, all these Whitewater, the FBI, there was nothing there. And she was exonerated by a Republican who was the Deputy Attorney General under George W. Bush. Jim Comey was not some random Republican. He was the Deputy Attorney General of John Ashcroft, pardon me, a liberal branch. And he was appointed precisely in part so that you would have protection against these politicization charges. So that's one set. The other set, you may be running into more of them, are the people who are going to vote for a third-party candidate. And that's especially the case for some former Sanders supporters. Some of you, I think, were former Sanders supporters. I appreciate them all working together now. There will be some on the left who say they cannot bring themselves to do this, and they act very morally superior and want to put us who are trying to be realistic about accomplishing something in a bind. Let me say two things. First of all, in general, yes, I think you should be motivated by ideals to get into politics. Otherwise, you have no business trying to get control of other people's lives. But once you are committed to a set of ideals, you are morally obligated to be pragmatic about implementing them. Otherwise, all they do is make you feel good. I'm going to prove that. Ideals for a person who eschews any pragmatism, who is proud of his or her unwillingness to worry about the consequences. I'll be a little crude. Lyndon Johnson once described people like that. He said, these are the kind of people who piss down their leg in a dark suit. They get a warm feeling and nobody notices. And in particular, as a gay man, am not prepared to have people who are prepared to ignore my rights tell me they're morally superior. We won some major victories. We have still legislation on public employment and public accommodations to guns. But even the victories we've won, the right wing has shifted. They know they can't win overall on some of these rights. So instead, what they are trying to do now is to be able to invoke that particular religious feeling as a way to cut back on our rights. To accepting the fact that they can't stop us from getting married, they can ignore us. In some places, that won't be a problem. In other parts of the country, if the religious people are able to say no to you, you will be seriously disadvantaged. That will be decided by the United States Supreme Court. It's now 4-4 because even Anthony Kennedy, who's been with us in some issues, has voted with the religious people on, for instance, the Holocaust. So the next president will decide whether or not the Supreme Court will vindicate our rights or will allow them to be whittled away by people invoking their religion. How dare people tell me that they are morally too pure to help me vindicate those rights? And you tell people who are going to kill signs, they are saying that the rights of LGBT people are no good. By the way, they are also saying they want to change the system. The most important thing you do to change the system is to have a justice, as Hillary Clinton said explicitly last night, who will overturn Citizens United and other bad decisions. Yes. And once again, that will be decided by the Supreme Court. Voter suppression. This terrible decision by the Supreme Court had a very bad, mixed emotions week. The same 2 days in which they threw out DOMA, they threw out the Voting Rights Act. And by the way, they talk about activist judges. They're the activists. They threw out the Voting Rights Act. Yeah. They threw out all the campaign finance laws. They want to block the president from taking action on the environment. But you will not get money reduced in politics until Hillary Clinton is president and appoints a justice. So people who say the system is corrupt and it's so corrupt they can't vote for her are basically saying the system is so corrupt that I am determined to keep it corrupt because I will not take the one action that could diminish it. That's also true about the environment. It's true about immigrants. There are a number of groups in this society, LGBT people, African Americans, immigrants, all whose rights depend in part on the appointment of the Supreme Court. And please do not let anyone get away with telling you that they're too pure to vote to vindicate our rights.